the lacrimal drainage system. Let us have a look at the lacrimal drainage system. The punctum. These are two small round to oval orifices of 0.2 millimeters in diameter. It is situated on the summit of an elevation, the papillae lacrimalis, that lies near the medial end of the eyelid margin at the junction of its ciliated and non ciliated parts. This is where the lacrimal punctum is located. I repeat, 0.2 millimeter in diameter, situated at the summit of an elevation, the papilla lacrimalis, which lies near the medial end of the eyelid margin, at the medial end of the eyelid margin, at the junction of its ciliated and non-ciliated parts. The punctum, being avascular, is paler. If you carefully observe, the punctum, being avascular, is paler than its surrounding structures. The puncta are surrounded by a ring of dense fibrous tissue which keeps them patent. Surrounded by a ring of dense fibrous tissue which keeps them patent. The canaliculi. These are hollow tubes 0.5 millimeters in diameter connecting the punctum to the lacrimal sac. The canaliculi, 0.5 millimeter in diameter, the superior and inferior, connecting it to the lacrimal sac. It has a vertical part which is 2 millimeter and a horizontal part which is 8 millimeter. The upper canaliculi is slightly shorter than the lower. There is a dilatation at the junction of these two parts, and that is called the ampulla. A vertical part and a horizontal part. A vertical part of 2 millimeter, a horizontal part of 8 millimeter. At the junction of the vertical and horizontal is a dilatation called the ampulla. The two horizontal parts join together at what is called the common canaliculus. The canaliculi unite at an angle of 25 degrees to form the common canaliculus, which is 0.5 millimeters in diameter. The common canaliculus is directed at an angle of 45 degrees with the sac before entering it. The angle is at around 45 degrees before the common canaliculi enter the nasolacrimal sac. This acute entry into the sac creates a potential mucosal flap or a valve across the opening, and this is called the valve of Rosenmuller. The point of entry of common canaliculus into the lacrimal sac is called the lacrimal sinus of Meyer. I repeat, the point of entry of the common canaliculus into the lacrimal sac is called the lacrimal sinus of Meyer. The canaliculi are lined with stratified squamous epithelium. The sac itself, it is of 15 millimeters in length, 4.6 millimeter anteroposterior length, 2 to 3 millimeters wide. The dimensions of the lacrimal sac. It is located in the lacrimal fossa formed by the lacrimal bone and frontal process of maxilla in the anterior part of the medial wall of the orbit, which is continuous below with the nasolacrimal duct. Repeat, lies in the lacrimal fossa formed by the lacrimal bone and frontal process of maxilla in the anterior part of the medial wall of the orbit, which is continuous below with the nasolacrimal duct. Relationship of the lacrimal sac. Medially, the lacrimal sac is related to the anterior ethmoidal sinus. Medially related to the anterior ethmoidal sinus. So, if the anterior ethmoidal sinus is diseased, it can encroach upon the lacrimal sac and cause a pathology within it and cause obstruction there, resulting in epiphora. Again, the lacrimal sac is related to the anterior ethmoid sinus in the upper part and the middle meatus of the nose in the lower part. Anterolateral relations of the sac from deep to superficial. Anterolateral relation of the sac from deep to superficial include number 1, the lacrimal fascia and a few fibers of the inferior oblique muscle which arise from it. Number 2, the lacrimal fibers of the orbicularis muscle, and that is called the Horner's muscle. The lacrimal fibers of the orbicularis muscle, which is called the Horner's muscle. The medial palpebral ligament, which covers only the upper part of the sac, therefore distension of the sac always occur in the lower part. Why don't you get a distension of the upper part? Because the medial palpebral ligament covers only the upper part. Therefore, distension of the sac always occurs in the lower part, and this is covered by few fibers of the orbicularis and skin. Lacrimal abscess and fistula also open in the lower part of the sac owing to less resistance. And then we have the palpebral fibers of orbicularis. Angular vein, which crosses the medial palpebral ligament about 8 mm from the medial canthus. Many a time, a tributary of the angular vein runs between it and the medial canthus. Therefore, to avoid profuse bleeding during sac surgery, one should not be made, the incision should not be made more than 3 mm medial to the medial canthus. Otherwise, you will injure the angular vein. Skin is the most anterior relation of the lacrimal sac. Posteriorly, the sac behind, from anterior to posterior, these structures are lacrimal fascia, fibers of lacrimal part of orbicularis, septum orbitale, which separates the sac from the orbital fat, and check ligament of the medial rectus muscle. Nasolacrimal duct. It is a continuation of the lacrimal sac, divided into two parts, namely an intraosseous part, which is 12.5 millimeters. The intraosseous part, which is 12.5 millimeters, and an intermeatal part, which is 5.5 millimeters. The opening of the nasolacrimal duct has a mucosal fold called the valve of Hasner, which prevents air from entering the lacrimal sac on sudden blowing of the nose. Structure of the lacrimal sac and nasolacrimal duct. The lacrimal sac and nasolacrimal duct are lined by two layers of cells, namely, the superficial layer is of non-ciliated columnar cell, the deeper layer is of flattened cells. The subepithelial tissue contains lymphocytes which may aggregate in pathological conditions to form follicles. Fibroblastic tissue of the lacrimal sac becomes continuous with that of the canaliculi. Plexus of vessels is well developed around the nasolacrimal duct, forming an erectile tissue resembling in structure with that of the inferior concha. Engorgement of these vessels is said to be sufficient to cause obstruction of the nasolacrimal duct and produce epiphora. Tears are drained from the conjunctival sac by two mechanisms, gravity and an active pump mechanism. Gravity playing a small part, most of the tears are drained by an active pump. The active pump, 70% of the tears are drained through the lower punctum, 30% through the upper punctum. The upper and lower margins, strips of tears go medially. The tears enter the punctum by capillary action and suction. The pretarsal orbicularis oculi splits into superficial and deep heads around the ampulla, and some fibers are attached to the sac. During closure of the eye, ampulla is compressed, horizontal canaliculus shortens, puncta move medially, deep head of the orbicularis causes dilatation of the sac. All these cause a negative pressure in the sac, and tears are sucked into the sac. When the eye closes, the sac goes into its original volume, forces the tears into the nasolacrimal duct, and the puncta move laterally, sucking tears into it. This is the mechanism of action of tear drainage. In epiphora, the watering eye, it is characterized by overflow of tears from the conjunctival sac. The condition may occur due to excessive secretion of tears or may result from obstruction to the outflow of normally secreted tears. We will have a detailed look about the watering eye at a later chapter.